どうも、生味です。今回もオリエント急行殺人事件やっていきます。前回はロック刑事がどのようにラチェットと結びつけ、ここオリエント急行へやってきたのか、その経緯を見ました。そんな中、時間は現在へと戻り、ポアロパート。この有名なミステリー、オリエント急行殺人事件。その真犯人を知ってる私は、今まで頑張って濁しながらやってきたんですが、なんとポアロパートに戻った途端、ポアロが犯人をばらしてしまいました。もうここからは皆さんに話を聞いていくという流れになっております。全員が犯人だ。あ、でもこの二人は違う。じゃあ、ロック？
You're right, Mr. Book. This dessert is delicious. I'm glad we didn't wait for dinner.
I promise the entrée will be superb as well.
Detective Locke, you are recovering well, I see.
Yes, I should be helping with the investigation. Do you know who drugged me?
It is early yet for conclusions. When I return, then we shall see.
Do not worry, Poirot. She is in good hands. Hotaru, Freya, and yours truly are looking after her.
はい。もうブーク仲良くなりたいだけじゃないですか？で、ホタルって言われると、っていつも思っちゃうんだけど。でも森さんですね。さて、ここにもずかずかと入っていく。あ、調理中だ。
Not now! Not now! I have a dinner to prepare. Would you interrupt Michelangelo or Da Vinci?
はい。それほど芸術の域に達してるんですね。で、前も言いましたけど、ここの中、相変わらず整理整頓されてないというか、どういう状況っていう感じなんですよね。これがまだ来てないので、そのうちやらされることになるでしょう。で、さらに進みます。トイレはもう、ここまで来ちゃったら、ヒゲは本当にいいですよね。無理だもん。どうなんだろう。でも、どれぐらい集めたんでしょうね。気にはなるな。さあ、301号室。初めて入るなんだ？
Good evening, Michel. Am I bothering you? You seem stressed.
With everything that's going on, I must admit it's difficult to be
めっちゃカチャカチャ言
Of
ってる。
course, I understand. Especially since we know that Detective Locke's tea was drugged before it was served to her.
Detective?
Come now, Michel. Surely you would have taken the opportunity to search her things and found her badge. Luckily, she woke up and was finally able to tell us her story.
Hotaru boiled the water, Jean made the tea. I just brought it. Sir, it could have been any of the staff.
Your defense is to accuse others?
お
You have a network connection?
No, unfortunately. It's just an automatic reminder to pay my rent. I always forget, and my landlord complains.
Pierre Michel had to be involved in the murder. The drugged tea, his post at the end of the hall, and now I know why I know more than one of those people on the screen.
いや、そしてもう分かったというか、分かりきっていたじゃないですかね。で、左の人物は誰だろうか。いや、これはもう見るからにミシェルだよね。ミシェル。冴えてる。見たまんまだね。中央の人物は誰だろうか。グレタ・オールソン。あれスザンヌ・モローだっけ。あれちょっと待って。わからなくなっちゃった。調べるは何になる？調べるはズームアップするだけ。グレタ。違う、スザンヌでしたね。ごめんなさい。消去法だよ。右の人物は誰だろうか。この人は、名前覚えてないな。サイラス？エドワード、まあいいや、マスターマン。違う。大丈夫、大丈夫。3択だから、サイラス。
Fantastic.
全然喋ってなかったからね。
You are the father of Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's nanny. My condolences on the death of your wife.
What? But my wife...
Enough lies. Suzanne does not bear your name?
No. Suzanne's mother and I were divorced. Suzanne kept her mother's name.
My most sincere condolences, Monsieur Michel, on the deaths of Suzanne and your wife.
This job, I loved them, but I was never there for them. Then, a year after the divorce, Solange became ill. Suzanne took her to this special hospital in the US. Got that job as Daisy's nanny.
I understand your pain, and the reason that led you to drug Detective Locke.
We really can't hide anything from you, can we?
Many have been foolish enough to try and keep the truth from Hercule Poirot.
Yes, I admit, I drugged the tea. But it was only to keep her quiet, until I could... But she reacted so much to the sleeping pills.
She was lucky, as are you, that she didn't die. To be frank, there is one more thing that puzzled me, but I think I understand now.
はい、ちょっと待って。でも聞きすぎてしまったってミシェルが言ってましたけど、盛りすぎたってことではなかったってことなのかな。ちょっとここがどうなんだろう。第三者がさらに入れた可能性も否定できないですよね。そうなってくると。で、ミスター・ハードマンとミスター・ミシェルのとの関係は、ミスター・ハードマンはミスター・ミシェルのボーイフレンドだ。ミスター・ハードマンはミスター・ミシェルの義理の息子になるはずだった。義理の息子。
Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé.
Huh. I have the impression my whole life to you is an open book. Yes, Cyrus was my daughter's fiancé. I almost consider Cyrus as my own son.
Of course, much more is clear now. I have been patient long enough. It is time to go and see what all the commotion is next door.
漏れてないんですね、音は。で、ちょっと操作線が走ってしまいましたね。大丈夫かな。で、
Monsieur Hardman, excellent. The gods who watch over detectives must have trapped you here.
Why didn't they watch over me? I'm a detective too. I was talking to Michelle about a leaky faucet, and I wanted to go out, but you showed up.
No need to invent some preposterous story.
But really,
Michelle has told me everything. You are the fiancé of Suzanne Moreau, his daughter.
Oh. I see.
Surely this is not a big surprise to you.
No. Suzanne was the only woman I ever loved. And I failed her. We got into a spat. It was nothing, but I was too proud to apologize. We weren't speaking at all. Suzanne never really cared for that guy Noah. She would have forgiven me. If only... If only...
If only. A common refrain between lovers who quarrel. Obviously, Pierre Michel and Fräulein Schmidt both drugged Detective Locke's tea, causing the overdose. No wonder she had so much trouble waking up. Time to report my findings to her and book.
はい、決して盛りすぎた、鼻から盛りすぎたわけではなかったということですね。で、シェフズ、ちょっと待って。はい、シェフズキス。なんだ？
I wonder if our master chef gets his recipes from a game.
そうなの？まあでもっていうのはちょっとあれか。あ、ひげあった。やっとだ、キラ
You
ン。
can never have too many of these.
いや、邪魔になると思うんだけど。多分純金ではないだろうしな。なんとなく。で、ちょっとさらに奥行ってみておきたいです。あ、何もないか？あ、なかったっすね。うん。じゃあ戻ろう。結果報告だ。ただしこちら、 デモ版をやった時にも告知されていたことなんですが、事件が終わってからもまだ続く、数時間続く内容が盛り込まれているということで、そこもちょっと楽しみなところですよね。オリエント急行がオリエント急行だけではないという。
So, my friend, tell me, you have something new?
はい。で、睡眠薬。
Mademoiselle Locke, I know who drugged you. Fräulein Schmidt and our conductor Pierre Michel both admitted putting sleeping pills into your tea. This explains your overdose. They are relieved you are recovering.
Michel drugged a passenger? On behalf of the company, I offer my apologies to you, Mademoiselle Locke. Michel will answer for this outrage.
反省して
Both
もら
of
う。
them? I was pretty sure about Fräulein Schmidt, but I admit that I did not suspect the conductor.
はい。まあそこはポアロにかかればって感じでしょうかね。で、アームストロング事件。
I have uncovered multiple connections with the Armstrong case. Pierre Michel is the father of Suzanne Moreau, little Daisy's nanny, and Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé. As for Hildegard Schmidt, she was the cook of the Armstrong family. What a coincidence, don't you think?
But it's incredible! What are the odds that so many people linked to that tragic affair ended up on the same train?
About the same as you winning the lottery, my friend.
I wasn't the officer who interviewed Fräulein Schmidt back then, so she couldn't recognize me here on the train. How could they know who I was?
There were other passengers who might have. Or she may have seen you when you visited the Armstrong home. It is now clear to me that some of the clues to this elaborate plot were staged for my benefit.
はい。意図的に見せようとした。なぜそう思わせようとしたのか。ウィンコビッツで列車に殺人犯が乗り込みラチェットを殺しすぐに降りていった。ウィンコビッツで列車に殺人犯が乗り込みラチェットを殺したがまだ車内にいる。イスタンブールで列車に殺人犯が乗り込みラチェットを殺しベオグラードで降りた。いやこれですねと思う。
Think, Poirot. That is not a good answer.
ちょっと待ってよ。ベオグラード乗り込みラチェットを殺しベオグラードで降り違う。なぜそう思わせようとしたのか。だから、これだと思わせたいってことか。
That was easy. Some clues and information collected so far could lead to a hypothesis. The murderer boarded the train in Vinkovsky, killed Ratchet, and then left the train immediately.
How did you come to that possibility?
Monsieur Hardman told me about a short man with a high-pitched voice who threatened Ratchet. Imagine for a moment that this man, wearing a wagon-lit conductor's jacket, killed him while Michel was on the platform at Vinkovsky. This murderer then hid the conductor's jacket in Detective Locke's room, then fled before the train left.
Why choose Detective Locke's room?
Why, indeed. Let me re-explain from the beginning.
さて来たぞ。殺人犯が列車に乗り込み車掌になりすました。これが最初ですね。ミスリードであった出来事を再構築しよう。で、列車に戻り、列車が止まり、ミシェルはプラットホームに降りた。で、乗り込むのは後ですよね。ラチェットを殺し、マダム・ハバートの部屋を通って出ていった。ナイフを隠し、で、乗り込んで、部屋を通ってナイフを隠し、上着のボタン、ここで外れてますからね。で、出た。これか。よかった。
I'm right again. That happens to me a lot.
Mon Dieu! We Oui, that must be it. Everything fits so well.
It fits too well, my friend. Other clues lead to a second hypothesis, much more plausible.
はいはい。可能性が最も高い仮説はなんだ。ここですね。殺人犯は複数いたがビンコビツで逃走した。殺人犯は複数いた。目的はラチェットの金だった。殺人犯は複数いる。全員がアームストロング事件に関わっている。これですね。
My little gray cells did not let me down. So, we have multiple murderers, all related to the Armstrong case. The murderer from Vinkovsky was a fabrication to turn suspicion away from those on the train. They expected the investigation to be led by some small-town official who could easily be misled.
Mr. Poirot?
Detective Locke, forgive me. You are an obvious exception. You tracked Ratchet with the tenacity of a bloodhound. Unfortunately for the killers, they not only had you to deal with, but now they had, and I say this with all modesty, the world's greatest detective, Hercule Poirot, dropped into the midst of their meticulous planning.
Multiple murderers? Multiple detectives? Poirot, please take pity on me. Who is linked to this case and who is not?
My poor friend, I have gone speeding out of the station without you. I will continue.
はい、ちょっと待って。アームストロング事件とつながりのある9名の人物とは、ここから9名を絞り出してください。だけど、1、2、3、4、5、6、7。これでいい？
I do not think that's the right answer.
間違ってるような気がする。あれ一人、あれハワード夫人は違ったっけ？ 1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8ですよね。あと一人、どっちかか。アーバスノット隊は多分メアリー、デブナ、オールソンかな？これで、違った。じゃあごめんなさい。マスターマン、違うよね、オールソン。あれやべえ。つながりの、むしろロック？そうなるか。そうですよね。お医者さんはちょっと手がかり不足というか、そこに繋がらないもんな、今のところ。
Monsieur Hardman and Monsieur McQueen are all linked to the Armstrong case. I also know that Sonia Armstrong's sister and godmother, Countess Andreni and Princess Dragomirov, are on this train. And finally, Detective Locke discovered that Mr. Foscarelli was the Armstrong chauffeur.
If we add Detective Locke and Ratchet, of the 12 passengers in that coach, 9 have a connection with the Armstrong case. What next, Poirot? Or should I say, who next?
It is time to summon everyone.
Everyone? Even Dr. Constantine? The train crew other than Michel?
Dr. Constantine, yes. I will need him. But we don't want the others as witnesses.
I will see that their duties keep them occupied elsewhere.
Excellent. I have always thought this moment in a case is much like Rodin unveiling the thinker before a captivated audience. A work of art. Have you not felt that way, Detective?
No, Mr. Poirot. I'm happy just to slap the cuffs on him.
Well, there is some artistry in that as well, I suppose.
Where would you like the unveiling, Poirot? The lounge?
Perfect.
Then I will gather all the passengers in the lounge.
はい。まあ確かに芸術というかね、仕上げという感じになりますもんね。で、ラウンジに集めましょう。でも、先ほど選んだ9名、 からさらに、枝分かれというかつながりを持たせるってヒゲじゃんっていうテストがあるかと思いきや、それはなかったですね。ポアロの元に来るがよい。おっと、
Monsieur Book, are the train crew locked in their quarters?
Yes, they are.
Then the stage is set for the final act. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gathered you together to hear my reconstruction of the murder of Samuel Edward Ratchet, also known as Cassetti. There is not one, but two possible solutions of the crime. I shall put them both before you, and I shall ask Monsieur Book and Dr. Constantine here to judge which solution is the correct one.
2 solutions?
Mr. Poirot, I am hardly qualified.
Nevertheless, your assistance is required. Now, you all know the facts of the case. Ratchet was found stabbed to death this morning. He was last known to be alive at 12:37 a.m. last night when he spoke to the wagon-lit conductor through the door. His watch was found to be badly dented, and it had stopped at 1:15. Dr. Constantine, who examined the body, puts the time of death as having occurred between midnight and 2 in the morning. At half an hour after midnight, as you all know, the train ran into a snowdrift. After that time, it was impossible for anyone to leave the train. So, here is my first theory. The enemy, as Ratchet expected, joined the train at Vinkovsky by the door left open by Captain Arbuthnot and Monsieur McQueen, who had just descended to the platform. He was equipped with a wagon-lit jacket, which he wore over his ordinary clothes, and a pass key which enabled him to gain access to Ratchet's compartment in spite of the doors being locked. Ratchet was under the influence of a sleeping draft. This man stabbed him with great ferocity, 12 wounds in all. He left the compartment through the communicating door to Madame Hubbard's compartment.
Yes, that's so. Scared me half out of my wits.
The murderer thrust the dagger he had used into Mrs. Hubbard's handbag in passing. Without knowing it, he lost a button of his uniform. Then he slipped out of the compartment and along the corridor. He put the uniform jacket into Detective Locke's suitcase to cast suspicion on her. And a few minutes later, dressed in his ordinary clothes, he left the train just before it started off again, using the same means for egress, the door near the dining car. That is the first hypothesis. But there's a second. For that, we must examine the motive for the crime. Why was Ratchet killed?
はい、ここで選択が来た。ちょっとなんかわざと間違えたい気がしますね。殺人の動機は何か、金か復讐か。金って言っちゃったらどうなるんだろう。みんななんか新喜劇みたいにこけるんでしょうか。じゃあお金で。
No,
そうなっちゃうのか。
Nothing was stolen from the crime scene.
ちょっと機嫌悪くなりましたね。もう一回お金って言ったらどうなんだろう。ブチ切れって画面から出てくるかもしれないですね。じゃあ復讐。
The motive is clear. Revenge, of course. Nothing was stolen. And we know that Ratchet had made many enemies. This was a premeditated crime, meticulously planned.
今回やけに あれですね、ポアロさんが前に寄ってきますね。で、殺人の計画が立てられた時期はイスタンブールからの出発直前、イスタンブール出発の数ヶ月前。こんなのはさすがに、でも間違いの場合どういうのかも見たい。
No, what am I thinking? The outline was conceived long before Istanbul.
もう答え言ってますね、数ヶ月前。
Since the kidnapping and death of little Daisy Armstrong, which traumatized many people close to the family. Even when the police concluded that it was Suzanne Moreau, questions remained. Detective Locke continued her investigation, as did others. They became convinced the truth lay elsewhere. We now know who the real murderer of Daisy is.
はい、デイジーを殺したのはスザンヌ・モロー、そしてラチェット。もうここはちょっと間違えないで言った方がいいね。ラチェット。
It is clear now that Daisy's killer was Ratchet, also known as Cassetti and Michael Clark and how many other names. But of course, many of you have known this for a long time. It is obvious that the 12 stab wounds are not a random number. Dr. Constantine's analysis revealed that some stab wounds appeared to have been caused by a right-handed attacker. Others indicated the knife wielder was left-handed. Some wounds were deep, more than one fatal, yet others were not much more than mere scratches. What can explain these discrepancies? This leads us to an obvious conclusion. They are symbolic.
はい、12箇所の刺し傷が意味するのはデイジーの年齢、米国での陪審員の人数。どっちだろう。年齢。
Come now, Poirot. Daisy was 3 years old.
はい、陪審員。そうですよね。復讐、判決を下す。
12 stabs. 12! The same number as a trial jury in the United States. But not just a jury of 12 members condemning him to death, but 12 executioners as well. This self-appointed jury had meticulously planned for everything except
Snow.
Snow. The avalanche that stopped us, as well as the presence of not one but 2 detectives on the train. They had to improvise, to hastily add clues and false leads.
はい。で、即興や、で、ここ質問の意図が出ないですね。赤い着物、壊れた時計、電子タバコの液体、車掌の上着、壊れた時計でしょう。
The time on Ratchet's broken watch was deliberately set to conceal the true time of the crime.
まだある。電子タバコの液体。
The vial of vaping liquid incriminated Captain Arbuthnot. However, he had a solid alibi confirmed by Monsieur McQueen. Impossible then to suspect him.
で、さらに、赤い着物、これも即興になってくるのかな。
This woman in a red kimono does not exist. I don't know which of the passengers it was. It does not really matter. It was just a performance, a charade to introduce another possible culprit to muddy the waters.
あれ、車掌の上着はそうなる？
The conductor's jacket, found in Detective Locke's suitcase, was put there only to cast suspicion upon her. All these false leads were intended for me. But I am Poirot. I understood the truth. We have a train full of suspects. It's time to identify who the real culprits are. Let's start with Detective Locke.
ちょっと待って。こっから選択させるのみんなが犯人だって言ったのに、ロック刑事はラチェットを刺さ、いいえ、ここ押すんじゃないんだ。なんだ ミズ・ロックが無実である証拠は、彼女は刑事である、彼女は犯行を目撃されていない、彼女は薬を盛られた。
Planting the conductor's jacket in her suitcase was an attempt to implicate Detective Locke, but she couldn't fake her drugged condition. Dr. Constantine can testify that the drugged tea incapacitated her for hours, and she had 2 relapses. Let us move on to Monsieur McQueen. When I told him about Cassetti, he looked very surprised that I managed to make the connection between him and the Armstrong case. He told me, "But I thought we had..." I think he meant.
はい、ミスター・マクイーンが言ったのはどういう意味か、私たちはという手がかりは全部隠滅したと思ったのに、犯人はもう捕まったと思ったのに、こっち。
You thought you didn't leave any real clues linking the murder to the Armstrong kidnapping. Moreover, you insisted that Ratchet did not speak French when you knew I had heard a voice calling out in French that was supposed to be Ratchet.
ミスター・マックイーンはラチェットを刺したのか。チーン。ミスター・マックイーンの容疑の理由とは、父親のためラチェットの秘書だったため。いや違うな。ちょっと待って。もう誰が誰かわからなくなっちゃってるから。父親のため。
You took some pleasure in leaving me false clues, I think. It was quite annoying. But you told me yourself that your father was the district attorney who handled the Armstrong case.
The case haunted my father. At first, he believed Suzanne Moreau had helped her boyfriend, Noah, to kidnap Daisy, even though there were questions that went unanswered, and a young policewoman refused to let it go, continuing to find discrepancies, but never enough to reopen the official investigation.
That policewoman sits there. Her name is Joanna Locke.
Then tell him. Tell him how in the end my father believed you, how he resigned a job that he loved, racked with guilt that he may have let that monster go free. He died young, broken, his faith in justice broken. That's what Ratchet did to him.
Thank you for your honesty, Monsieur McQueen. Your father is one more victim of the man who called himself Ratchet. Now, I will turn to Ratchet's valet, Monsieur Masterman.
はい。ミスター・マスターマンはラチェットを刺したのか。あなたは違うよね。
No, Poirot.
あれ
Remember Ratchet's sleeping pills.
ちょっと待って。やばいぞ。はい。笑わないで。はい、じゃあこうするしかないな。知って、ちょっと待って。マスターマンの容疑の理由は歯が痛かったからって。言ってって言って殺す？ないない。ラチェットの召使い。ラチェットに、容疑の理由か。ちょっと待って。でも、歯が痛かったわ。無理やりだな。睡眠薬を飲ませたから。
Ratchet sensed danger close to him and naturally wanted to stay awake. You gave him sleeping pills without his knowledge. Once he was sound asleep, you could do what you had to do in peace.
Sir, I'll tell you the truth. I was Colonel Armstrong's adjutant in the war, sir, and afterwards, I was his valet in New York. I'm afraid I concealed the fact this morning. It was very wrong of me, sir, but I knew how suspicious it would look.
Is that all you have to say?
That's all, sir.
Now, to leave no suspicious stone unturned, let us move on to Monsieur Book.
What? Me? A suspicious stone?
はい、ブークはラチェットを刺したのか。まあ、ここはボケる必要はないですよね、いいえ。ブークが無実である証拠は会社の重役だから、列車の客室を見つけてくれたから、友人だから、客室を見つけてくれたからかな。
Book, my friend, of course you are not guilty. You did everything you could to get me on this train. What madness would cause you to ensure, and I
慎んでない。
speak with modesty, that the best detective in the world could be present to witness your crime.
But doesn't our friendship count as well?
Most assuredly, but a murderer can wear all sorts of masks, including friendship. Let us consider our ever-efficient wagon-lit conductor, Pierre Michel.
はい、ラチェットを刺したのか。はい。これはなんかミシェル自身は否定しなさそう。ミスター・ミシェルの容疑の理由はミス・モローの父親だから。
No, that is his motive. I need real
証
tangible
拠
proof.
ミズ・ロックに薬を持ったから。容疑の理由か。
Your admission that you drugged Detective Locke immediately incriminates you. But the murder could not have been possible without your very capable assistance. Your knowledge of train procedures made the murder possible, and your position in the corridor of the train allowed you to be the perfect alibi for several passengers. And your motive? Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's poor nanny, who was wrongly accused and committed suicide, was your daughter.
C'est un foiré. He got what he deserved. My poor daughter has finally been avenged. My Suzanne. My child.
Let's move on now to Monsieur Hardman, one of 3 detectives on this train.
どうぞ。いや、びっくりした。ラチェットを刺したのか。はい。ミスター・ハードマンの容疑の理由は、ミスター・ミシェルが証言したからっすよね。
Monsieur Hardman, I think you are a real detective. But you were never hired by Ratchet. Your alibi was that you were watching the corridor to protect Ratchet, which, of course, you never did. You protected Pierre Michel. However, we just saw that his alibi doesn't hold up, so neither does yours.
I don't know about the conductor.
Being Suzanne's fiancé, you had a substantial motive to punish Ratchet. You used your detective skills, just as Detective Locke did, to hunt him down and finally avenge the death of your beloved.
That's right, Mr. Poirot. I do have some detective skills.
I never doubted it. Now, Fraulein Schmidt, the lady's maid with the soul of a cook.
ちょっと待って、もう犯人は全員って言ってるのは言うのは分かってるんだけど、もう誰が誰だかっていうのが混乱しちゃうからね。で刺したミズ・シュミットの容疑の理由は、ドラゴミロフ公爵夫人のハンカチについて嘘をついたから、ドラゴミロフ公爵夫人の助手だから、ミズ・ロックに薬を持ったから。
Fraulein Schmidt, you told me of your remorse for drugging Detective Locke. I believe you are sincere. However, as the cook of the Armstrong family, you experienced the drama from within. The death of Daisy, then Sonia Armstrong, who died in childbirth, and finally, Suzanne and John Armstrong.
So much misfortune in that poor family. The death of this criminal is only justice.
Let us move on to Countess Andreni. I was impressed by the earnestness of her husband when he swore to me solemnly on his honor that his wife never left her compartment that night. Should I believe it?
はい。アンドレニ伯爵夫人はラチェットを刺したのか。はい。
Even if it seems logical, it's more complicated than that. I believe Countess Andreni.
刺してなかった。あれ違う？アンドレニ伯爵夫人が無実である証拠は、彼女はソニア・アームストロングの妹だから、道徳上人を刺すことはできないから、人を刺すだけの力はないから。ちょっと待って。妹だから無実ではない。人を刺すだけの力はない。 か？浅い傷もあったんだよね。
Countess Andrény is young and fit, physically quite capable of stabbing Ratchet. The problem must be somewhere else.
え？あれちょっと待って。なんかこういうエピソードあったっけ？道徳上。アームストロングの妹だからこそ刺すんだよね、きっと。
Countess Andrény, being Sonia Armstrong's sister, you had every reason in the world to want to avenge her. But you were incapable of stabbing someone, even after what he had done to you and your family. The night of the crime, you simply took a sleeping pill. I appreciate the irony that nearby, Detective Locke was also in a drugged sleep. When you awoke, you thought the nightmare was over.
Rudolph?
Hush, my love. Hush.
Excellent transition. I was coming to you, Count Andrény.
はい。ラチェットを刺したのか、はいになっちゃいますね。なぜアンドレニ伯爵はラチェットを刺したのか、ラチェットの顔が気に入らなかった。それはあなただろう、ポアロ。アンドレニ伯爵夫人の身代わりになるため、スポーツ選手だから、スポーツ選手そんな刺しちゃうすぐ。で、ちょっと全スポーツ選手に謝ってほしいですね。身代わりになるため。
12 people, a jury. This was very important to all of you. If Countess Andrény did not stab Ratchet, someone had to take her place. And you, Count, the beloved husband. I've seen how fiercely you love and protect your wife.
Enough! I would do anything for Helena. Anything.
Even that.
Yes, even that. Let's move on to Monsieur Foscarelli.
はい、ラチェットを刺したのか。はい。ミスター・フォスカレリの容疑の理由はミズ・ロックの捜査のため、イタリア人だからスポーツ選手選手じゃない。選手だから、ここでもスポーツ選手出るんですね。容疑の理由はミズ・ロックの捜査のためかな？
Detective Locke found out that you were the Armstrong chauffeur and that you planned to travel on the same train at the same time as Ratchet. That is what made her decide to obtain a ticket as well. Unfortunately, she could not prevent the murder. Have you lost your tongue, Mr. Foscarelli?
Oh, Daisy. She was the delight of the house. Tonio, she called me. And she would sit in the car and pretend to drive me.
And you, Mademoiselle Olson, a champion for the immigrants, a worthy calling.
はい。で、ここに置きっぱなしになっちゃうからどうしても家にあっちゃうんですけど。はい。で、ミズ・オールソンの容疑の理由はミズ・デブナムがアリバイを証言したため、彼女は控えめな性格なので、ハバード夫人の掛け金の件。デブナム誰だっけ？これ。
Admittedly, she lied to me about Mademoiselle Debenham's schedule. But one lie does not convict her.
じゃあ、掛け金。
Mademoiselle Olson, you supported Madame Hubbard's story about her connecting door latch, a story that I later demonstrated to be impossible. So, you deliberately lied to me, and you also lied about Mademoiselle Debenham's whereabouts.
Enough! I can't take this anymore! I know what you want from me, Mr. Poirot. Very well. Here it is. She was my little Daisy, my angel, so patient. When I patched a scrape or took her temperature, that was my job. But she was so much more to me. She was a shining light in an ever-darkening world. I've tried to honor her by caring for children who have lost everything.
Thank you, Mademoiselle Olson. You too shed light on your part in this mystery.
すかさずうまいこと拾いましたね。ミズ・オールソンの職業はデイジの子守、デイジの看護師。
You were Daisy Armstrong's nurse. I will ask you no more questions. It is enough that you have admitted what I know to be the truth, and I understand. let's move on. Dr. Constantine.
You suspect me? I know none of these people. I didn't know Ratchet either, and I've taken a solemn oath to help people, not murder them.
ラチェットを刺したってない。コンスタンティン医師が無実である証拠はブークの証言があるから、医者だから捜査を手伝ったから。手伝ったからかな。
Dr. Constantine was certainly helpful to my investigation, but that does not prove he is innocent.
はい、じゃあブークの証言。
You are one of the few people in this room not to have any connection with the Armstrong case. Moreover, your alibi is confirmed by Monsieur Book, whom I would trust with my life.
That is very kindly said, my friend.
We now come to Mademoiselle Debenham and Captain Arbuthnot, whose relationship was not in doubt from the moment I inspected your room at the hotel.
You have a bloody nerve.
Indeed, I do.
We're getting married.
Congratulations. But I would rather talk about your relationship to John Armstrong.
はい、おっと、ここでアーバスノット隊とジョン・アームストロングを結びつけるものは何か。軍人。かなり多くの選択肢を用意しましたね。これだけってことは、
Et voilà.
他の掘り下げあったっけなって思っちゃった。
You served in the army with John Armstrong. What I don't understand is why a man your age is still a captain. One might expect you to be a colonel as well.
Ever fought in a war, Poirot?
It was war that first brought me to England.
Then you know what it's like. There's a shattering sound, and death, and mistakes, acting on intelligence that proved to be wrong. I sent a patrol to their death. Good men, brave men, wasted. John testified on my behalf at a court-martial. I'm not a colonel. I don't deserve to be, you bloody fool. But I'm also not in prison. John remained my best friend until... There, you have my story. Understand now?
Archie, calm down, please.
You're right, Mary. What you see in me, I don't understand.
Oh, Archie, I see in you what John saw.
Miss Debenham, I'm sorry.
My turn, is it?
I'm afraid so. And you have caused me quite a puzzlement. Your connection with the Armstrong family was not obvious. Then I remembered the job you currently hold.
ごめん、思い出せてない。私が思い出せてないぞ。何やってる人だっけ。家庭教師ですよね。よかった。
That was easy. You were the teacher of...
ミズ・デブナムは誰の家庭教師だったか。デイジー・アームストロング、ヘレナ・アンドレニー。デイジーじゃないよね。ヘレナ？でもちょっと待って。ちょっとごめんなさい。デイジー、家庭教師必要なそれではないよな。ヘレナ。
You were the teacher of Helena Andreni, whose maiden name was Helena Goldenbear before she married Count Andreni.
Yes, absolutely. Why lie to you? She was an excellent student.
Captain Arbuthnot.
アーバスノット隊はラチェットを刺したのか。これははいですね。アーバスノット隊の容疑の理由はベイプのリキッド。容疑ですからね。これ軍人だからミスター・マックイーンの証言があったからベイプのリキッドを。
No.
違うの？そうか、おとりだもんね。いや、コンパートは本当間違えない方がかっこいいところですよね。もう 台無しにしてるでミスター・マックイーンの証言があったから。
You had one of the strongest alibis thanks to Mr. McQueen, but his testimony melted like a snowflake. There went your alibi. Poof! Unless you have another one. As for you, Mademoiselle Debenham.
ラチェットを刺したのか。はい。ミズ・デブナムの容疑の理由はミスタンブール駅での発言。ミズ・オールソンが証言したから。アーバスノット。容疑の理由？発言？何言ったっけ？
Yes, I remember overhearing Mademoiselle Debenham
乗り込む時の
captain at Sakechi Station. She said, "Not now,
でも
not now,
ダメ
when
ですよ
it's
ね。
all over." That's significant in light of what we now know, but not enough to incriminate her.
じゃあオールソン、アーバスノット。
Her close relationship with someone guilty in the case, even her motive, do not necessarily make her guilty.
はい、間違いまくり。ミズ・オールソンが証言したから。
Mademoiselle Olsen was the only one who could confirm your alibi. I think you know where you stand.
Very good, Mr. Poirot. Are you satisfied?
I will be soon. Now I must turn to Sonia Armstrong's godmother, Princess Dragomirov.
なんかドラゴミロフ公爵夫人、この人はラチェットを刺したのか。はい。なんかラスボス感が本当にありますよね。ドラゴミロフ公爵夫人の容疑の理由は左利きだから。ミズ・シュミットが証言したから。人格者だから左利き。
Princess Dragomirov, you weren't on my list of suspects at the start, given your social position.
I left my social position in a cold country.
Do you object to being addressed as Princess?
I deny people the opportunity. It makes a good story to tell their friends. It also guarantees a good table in the best restaurants.
Princess, there is also, forgive me, your extreme physical fragility.
It does not stop me when I must be strong.
Indeed. Of more importance, though, is the fact that you're the only left-handed person on the train. And the single blow to Ratchet from a left-handed person was very, forgive me, weak. Finally, I'm afraid I know the alibi that you shared with Fraulein Schmidt is false.
You have been very thorough, sir. I hope you will permit me to say we are much alike.
I am honored. Now it is time to end with Mrs. Hubbard, or should I say...
おっと。で、ソニア・アームストロングと違うでしょ。リンダ・アーデン。
Linda Arden. If Princess Dragomirov hadn't told me about her relationship with this famous actress, I might not have made the connection. But you are a great actress, madame. Your performance as a flighty, self-involved woman was superb. I never would have guessed something entirely different. As for what ties you to the Armstrong family, it is obvious.
はい。ハバード夫人とアームストロング家のとの関係は何だろうか。デイジーの母親、デイジーの名付け親、違うよね。アンドレニ伯爵夫人の名付け親、ソニアの妹は違うもんね。全然わかんないぞ。ちょっと待って。ソニアの子守。あなた、いくつだったっけ？アンドレニア。妹。行き過ぎ？
This is wrong.
違う。
But I'm never far from the truth.
やばい。ここ一番難しいとこだな。ソニアの子守。ソニア。おば。
I must admit I'm not
はい。
right
今
this
回間違
time.
った。アンドレニ伯爵夫人の名付け。 デイジーは違うもんね。
No, no, no,
ああ、ダメ、
no,
違
no.
う。ごめんなさい。ソニアの母、いや、それないでしょ。ソニアの妹、いや、ソニアの妹、ソニアの子守。ああ、やばい、やばい。もう、いつか当たってくれ。ソニアの妹は絶対違うはずだよ。で、
But I'm never far from the truth.
ソニアの母親。
My little gray cells did not let me down.
いや、半分近く間違った。
You are the mother of Sonia Armstrong and Mrs. Andreni.
アンドレニ。ハバード夫人はラチェットを刺したの。やっべ、これ、なんかあれだ。オリエント急行もう一回見ないとな。ハバード夫人はラチェットを刺したのか。はい。ハバード夫人の容疑の理由はリンダ・アーデン、ラチェットの近親者、掛け金を外した洗面用具入れ。隠した。これかな。
Madame Hubbard, you really are a remarkable actress. You put so much effort into your character and into staging the murder. I saw it as a perfect mosaic, each person playing his or her allotted part. So carefully arranged that if suspicion should fall on any one person, the evidence of one or more of the others would clear the accused person and confuse the issue. Everything was meticulously planned. But you hadn't expected that Detective Locke and I would be on this train, and the avalanche would block it on the night of the murder. You had to improvise. But again, improvisation would be another of your skills as an actress. So you came up with the story that the latch on the door that communicated with Ratchet's compartment was hidden by the handbag.
I always fancied myself in comedy parts. That slip about the sponge bag was silly. Shows you should always rehearse properly. You know all about it, Mr. Poirot. You're a very wonderful man, but even you can't quite imagine what it was like. That awful day. I was just crazy with grief. So were the servants. We decided then and there that the sentence of death that Ratchet had escaped had got to be carried out. There were 12 of us, or rather 11. Suzanne's father was over in France, of course. First we thought we'd draw lots as to who should do it, but in the end we decided on this way. It was the driver, Antonio, who suggested it. Mary worked out all the details later with Hector McQueen. It took a long time to perfect our plan. We first had to track Ratchet down. Hardman managed that in the end. Then we had to try and get Edward and Hector into his employment. Well, we managed that. Then we had a consultation with Suzanne's father. Captain Arbuthnot was very keen on having 12 of us. He seemed to think it made it more orderly. He didn't like the stabbing idea much. But he agreed that it did solve most of our difficulties. Well, Suzanne's father was willing. Suzanne had been his only child. We knew from Hector that Ratchet would be coming back from the east, sooner or later, by the Orient Express. With Pierre Michel actually working on that train, the chance was too good to be missed. My daughter's husband had to know, of course, and he insisted on coming on the train with her. Hector wrangled it so that Ratchet selected the right day for traveling when Michel would be on duty. And then, at the last minute, you came. For the rest of the story, you worked out everything, Mr. Poirot. You were right about all of us. What are you going to do about it? If it must all come out, can't you lay the blame upon me, and me only? I would have stabbed that man 12 times willingly. It wasn't only that he was responsible for my daughter's death, and her child's, and that of the other child who might have been alive and happy now. It was more than that. There had been other children kidnapped before Daisy, and there might be others in the future. Society had condemned him. We were only carrying out the sentence, but it's unnecessary to bring all these others into it, all these good, faithful souls.
You are a director of the company, Monsieur Bouc. What do you say?
In my opinion, Poirot, the first theory you put forward was the correct one. Decidedly so. I suggest that is the solution we offer to the police. You agree, Doctor?
Certainly, I agree. As regards the medical evidence, I think that I made one or two fantastic suggestions.
Then, having placed my solution before you, I have the honor to retire from the case.
Wow. ちょっと待って、終わっちゃったんだけど。終わってからなんかあるって言ったじゃん。書いてあったじゃん。まあいいや、ちょっとおとなしくしてよ。
I'm sorry to wake you up in the middle of the night, Poirot, but it couldn't wait. There was a detail that bothered me in my preliminary autopsy of Ratchet's body. I went back to examine the body and I discovered a wound covered by another. The blow I hadn't seen was delivered by a thinner, sharper blade. So there were not 12, but 13 stab wounds.
12 stabs for 12 jurors. It doesn't work with 13 wounds. The symmetry is destroyed.
It can't be one of the culprits who stabbed him twice?
Doctor, a different knife was used. There is only one explanation. Somehow, some way, there is a 13th murderer on this train. We must tell Book. The case is not solved.
ちょっと待って。で、わ。13人目の実行犯と言っていいのか。めっちゃ疑わしい人一人に絞られません？
Book. I see we are moving at last.
Yes. The way was finally cleared while we slept. If all goes well, we will arrive in Venice this evening. The train will be there for several hours for refueling and reprovisioning. What do we do with the 13th murderer? Do you have a lead?
I thought about it. There is one clue that was left aside in my investigation. The diary I found in Ratchet's safe mentioned an appointment in Venice. Someone with the initials AW. He will never keep the appointment. But there should be enough time. I must try to keep that appointment for him.
おほほ、いつどこでラチェットと面会したか？ちょっと待って、調べる。AW について、あれ？これでもさ、読めないんだけど。まあいいか。いや、ちょっと、会う場所。フォンタナ・デイ・コニーリ。フォンタナ・デイ・コニーリ。時刻。ちょっと待って。調べるが戻せないんだけど、これ。戻せた。よかった。で、22時っすね。午後10時。で、都市は、どこだ？だって確認、これになっちゃうもんな。まあいいか、イスタンブール言うてました。ベネチア言うてましたっけ？で、日は18日になってたっけ、今。よかった。ベニス。
That was easy.
はい、新たな謎が見つかったオリエント急行の旅路。コンスタンティン氏に話しかける。ヘイスティング役を探す。ヘイスティングで、町に到着した現地の警察が遺体を確保しようとするだろう。コンスタンティン氏はどこだろう。彼ならどうすべきかわかるはずだ。 でさらにもう一つ、ヘイスティングス役ベネチアで捜査を手助けしてくれる人物が必要だ。いつもなら我が友ヘイスティングスがこの役を務めるが、今回他のものを探さなければ。でもブークはブークでも割れちゃってるから、ブークは無理でしょ。ブーク連呼しちゃったけど、ちょっとなんか衝撃的でしたね。終わったやんっていうところからまたなんだろう、ぐっと伸びてきたみたいな感じがありますね。だってみんなやん。なんか粋な計らいをしたけれども特にない。ちょっと全部行きたいだけなんだけど。あれ、いないな。いないし何もない。けどちょっとここで今回は締めにしたいところですね。
How would it look to the police if I asked a suspected murderer for help?
誰もいないよ。なんか久しぶりに動いてるオリエント急行に乗ってるって感じですね。感じというかまさにですよね。あれ、さっき102は
I don't have time for small talk.
じゃあ行こう。連打でやりすぎたかもしれない。いやだから締めたいんだよね。締めたいんだけど、なんかやりたい気持ちとなんだろう、並行してしまって私の抑えが効かなくなってるところがありますね。202は私んちじゃないか。そうだよね。よし、じゃあ戻っていきましょう。ちょっと一通り見たよね。
How would it look to the police if I asked a suspected murderer for help?
でもラチェット引きずってこいつ仲間なんですみたいな。それは無理か。はい。ちょっと話しかけたいよ。どうしよう。あれ
Doctor, a moment.Have you made arrangements for Ratchet's body?
Yes, it will be collected by the Italian authorities when we reach Venice. The autopsy will be performed there. However, there is something odd.
Oh?
Since the train is French, jurisdiction must be shared. When I told them you were already on the scene, they have both agreed to support your investigation until we reach Paris. Ratchet's compartment will be sealed until we arrive there.All of those who conspired to kill Ratchet are to be confined to the train until then as well.
So, thanks to you, I am the rope in a tug of war between two countries.
Oh, but I thought you would want to be in charge. Isn't it odd we continue on our journey with a trainload of people that police consider potential murderers?
Calm yourself, Doctor. It is not the first time I find myself in the middle. And to be honest,I welcome the chance to see this case through. It is fast becoming one of the most challenging of my career.
はいはい。で、ちょっと待って。2人とも出てますね。ブーク？何か問題はないかい？
So, my dear Book, how does our journey progress?
We are well on our way to Venice. All of our passengers are locked in their rooms by order of the authorities. I watch them.When they want to stretch their legs, like the captain there behind you.
I see that you have the situation well in hand.
一人で大丈夫ですか？で、ベネチアに同行する？
Would you be able to accompany me to Venice to follow a lead?
I'm honored you asked me, my friend. I would have loved to help you. But I have to manage the situation here. I must make sure no one gets off the train in Venice and that Ratchet's body is transferred.
はい、そうなってくると私の相棒になるのはあなたではない。
Doctor, a question. Could you assist my investigation in Venice?
I can't. I'm afraid. I'm to accompany Ratchet's body when the Italian police take possession of it. I've been asked, commanded really, to help with the autopsy because of my earlier examination.
そうですよね。中途半端に刻むなと。ダメ出しめっちゃされたりしてね。 いや、ないでしょ。
I'm not going to ask a murderer to help me catch himself.
しかも殴ろうとした男ですからね。ちょっと待って。そうなってくると、ちょっと私の頭の中でなんか二択というかができてしまったな。で、相棒としてはやっぱりベネチアに同行する。
Mademoiselle Locke, you are clearly an excellent police officer. Could you accompany me to Venice for an investigation into Ratchet's activities? There is much we still need to know.
Well, yes, it would be an honor to work with you. And I'm glad you trust me. What do you have in mind?
There was a notation in Ratchet's appointment book. He had an appointment.
With who?
There were only the initials A.W. They were to meet at 10 o'clock at the Fontana dei Conigli. I want to know who Ratchet was meeting and why.
But you've already discovered the 12 conspirators. Why is this meeting important?
Unfortunately, the case is not complete. Dr. Constantine has discovered the presence of a 13th stab wound.
One of them could have stabbed him twice.
The wound was made with another, finer blade. Why would one of them have used two knives? Did they want to confess they killed him more than the others? And if so, why bother to deny it when they have already confessed? No, it makes no sense. And I do not close a case until all questions have been answered. You, of all people, must understand this.
You're right. I do understand. I'll help you.
Thank you. Together, we will uncover the truth. We will arrive in a few hours. Take the opportunity to rest.
I slept well last night. No more effects of the drug.
Excellent. Then be prepared when we reach Venice. We have another mystery to solve.
わあ。なんか衝撃的ですね。
This is the third embarking dock, and no gondoliers available at all.
ベネチア12月
With
18
Carnival,
日。
you can't find a gondolier to cross that damn canal. They're all booked. The worst thing is that the fountain is just across this canal. We're almost there.
I see a gondolier just over there.
はい。あれちょっと待って。ちょっとポアロどっか行っちゃってない？なんでそんな距離を取るんですか？はい。ということで、ちょっとベネチアに来ましたね。となってくると、なんか亡霊、ベネチアの亡霊というか、を思い出してしまうんだけど、さて、その13番目の傷、そして AW というオリエント急行事件自体は解決というかになったんですけれども、そのいわゆるプラスアルファみたいな要素がここで出ました。この先どうなっていくのか、ロック刑事とそしてポアロが組み謎に挑んでいくようです。ということでちょっと驚きでしたね。で、改めてオリエント急行を振り返ってみたくなったという感じのパートでありました。次回はまたそのプラスの要素に、突き進んでみたいと思います。ということで今回はここまでご視聴ありがとうございました。